Why are most game devs so stupid and woke, honestly?
Now, am I the only one that feels like over the last couple of years it's become increasingly more popular to talk down to your audience? To tell them just how worthless they are, especially in your eyes?
What do you mean? I love when game developers think I'm a useless sack of crayons. Am I the only one? I love when people talk down to me like I'm a moron. How could that ever lead to anything negative?
Over the last couple of years, we've seen constant battles between game developers and their audience, arguing, gaslighting, minimizing their feedback at every given turn. We live in this really weird state in which we don't just have bad games that fail, we have pretty decent games as well that also go by the wayside purely because of egos. Developers that care.
True? I think that's the real thing that has really increased in the past couple of years. It's games that could be decent, it's movies that could be decent, it's a lot of things that could be decent, and a reasonable number of people would like it. Not necessarily mega blockbuster hit successes, but hey, they had at least a chance to be decent. And, well, they throw it away just for some political stance that doesn't make any sense, and a feeling of non-stop superiority over the people they are trying to sell to. Man, makes you think.
Care more about their own opinions than they do the games that they're actually creating, doing anything they can to own that audience that they so despise. There's been a lot of cases over the last couple of years where there were games that I would have played, but when I saw how the developers carried themselves, I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
True.
And what's crazy is they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to shoo away audiences that otherwise would be interested in their games. So today what I want to do is something special. I'm giving.
Now, theoretically, there is an explanation for this. An explanation that encompasses all walks, levels of life. And that is the fact that, well, the higher you are in life, the different your problems are. People who are poor can't understand the problems of rich people, and the people who are rich don't understand the problems of poor people, because typically those problems mostly don't have money. When you have money, life changes. Not a lot, but it definitely changes. AKA, problems that you previously didn't think are problems are now actual problems because that's the only thing you need to care about. And in a lot of situations, when you are better off than other people, you become obviously self-indulged. You obviously have a higher opinion of yourself. This is purely natural, and almost everyone, without exception, succumbs to this sooner or later at some level when you actually have money. And these game developers, maybe they're not the richest people out there, but they're probably doing better than the average person. Because, being a game developer is not exactly something that anyone can do, right? Technically, at least. So, they naturally smell their own farts, get put in rooms with people who are the exact same as them, and surprise, surprise, all of them have the exact same opinion. And those of them who do not, well, risk getting ostracized out of that community and fired because, well, they don't have the same opinions, and that is wrong. And this reinforces their vision of the world that they are right. They are smarter than everyone else, and everyone else needs to understand that the way that they do things is the correct way because they are smarter. And that permeates all walks of life, all levels of life, and gaming development is not immune to the slightest to it.
Giving a business ethics course, a marketing class. I'm trying to give back to the video game community because I guarantee that there are some developers that are working at these studios that are so excited to see their game come out, only to find out one of their developers went online, got into an argument, and told everybody that their game's not for them. Social media has become symbiotic with so many industries, but for gaming, it is especially woven into the fabric of the entire ecosystem. Players are using it constantly to find reviews on YouTube, to watch streamers dive into new games on Twitch, to keep up with the news on Reddit or Twitter, or to build their own communities on Discord.
News on Reddit? I'm sorry, you see what I mean? I'm looking down on anyone who gets their news on Reddit.
So they can connect with other people that share their passion. It's completely reshaped the way that we engage with games and the people who make them. This evolution has created a more connected and transparent industry than gaming has ever seen before. Thinking back to the pre-social media days, your only window into what a game might actually be like came from a few magazine previews. Maybe a friend already tried it, the divine words of wisdom from a local game store employee, or maybe just a blind leap of faith. Now, players are incredibly informed. They watch gameplay before they even buy the game. They follow the development updates. They get glimpses into the game's creation through developer streams and behind-the-scenes posts. Social media has made it so easy for players to do their homework and become part of a community, and as a result, they have become a lot savvier with their purchases and far more connected to the industry than they ever would have been otherwise. Now, what's even more fascinating about this connectivity is that it extends beyond the games themselves. Social media has allowed players to reach out to the people that make the games that they love. They can follow their favorite developers, comment on updates, and sometimes even influence the direction of games through direct feedback. We've seen this all across social media. How many times have you seen a public outcry directed at a game's developers, maybe their personal Twitter, asking for changes that they wanted to see in the game, and those developers replied to those posts and eventually actually made changes to their game? This is a huge shift, a direct line from the creators to the community. Personally, this is one of the reasons why I believe so many games have reached such explosive popularity over the last few years, and it's because players are more connected to these games, the developers, the process of making them, and they find new games easier. Now, what's wild is that the opposite is true. These developers have a direct window to their audience. They can see what they want. We live in a time in which
and that is pretty bad nowadays. Hey, what can be said about that?
It has never been easier to designate a target audience, see what they're interested in, understand what they are looking for in games, and know exactly what kind of response they want. Take 10 minutes.
Now, the problem with that is, while that is definitely true, all feedback is not good feedback. There have been a lot of games that literally have died because of Reddit influences. Because people think, oh, all the right people are going to give us feedback on Reddit. Yeah. And then the game dies because you're actually, listening to the feedback of a ultra super minority of the player base that has a completely different understanding of what is important. In a lot of cases, it's not important at all, okay? I think World of Warcraft has had a very extensive history of people complaining about something on Reddit, then the devs do it, and it's the worst decision ever. And no one else likes it. Because you need to understand, Reddit is an echo chamber. The best place to get news, get pretty much all your information nowadays is unironically Twitter. And yes, there is a lot of BS on Twitter. Also, there is a lot of things that are not smart and someone's just taking a piss sometimes, as the British would say. But that also does actually benefit you in the sense that, hey, if you ever encounter something that's not true, well, how are you going to say tell it's not true if you don't actually, learn to deal with that? And that's a great part of Twitter. Even if something is not true, it's on the person to figure out, hey, is this actually true or not?
To browse a genre subreddit, watch a couple highly viewed YouTube videos, and you can quickly ascertain what features players are feeling or missing in games today and understand what they love most about the games that they are playing. So today, developers have some of the best tools available to be wildly successful. However, those very tools can be the instruments of their downfall. You know the old saying, never meet your heroes. Well, it's especially true in gaming. The developers whose work that you admire might not actually turn out to be people that you like or have anything in common with. And this door swings both ways, which I think is the crux of the issue. Not only can we see them for who they really are, but they can see our unfiltered opinions. We've seen growing tensions between games media, game developers, and their audiences, and a lot of that has to do with the frequency, transparency, and ease of access when it comes to social media. Developers can ruin their own success before it even starts. We've seen it countless times by now, and it's a weakness that this industry didn't have at birth, it grew into it. If developers let their egos and opinions get in the way, or worse off, they think that social media is a full reflection of real life, poisoning their perspective on who their audience truly is, well, they could find themselves driving away potential customers by their own actions. It's easy to forget in the moment of posting something online, but they're not just speaking as individuals, they are representing a company, their team, and the game itself. One misstep, one condescending tweet, and they can alienate the very audience that they need on their side. Social media is an incredible tool, but it's a double-edged sword.
That's actually not that easy to do unless you are doing it intentionally, okay? If you're a developer, if you're anyone, and you say something on Twitter, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're representing the company. And you can make that distinction pretty easily if people are thinking, oh, that this is bad or whatever. Now, you can easily tell people, no, this is not right, or this is right, or something like that. Now, granted, everyone will not listen, but there is a very easy effort to be made to actually get rid of that.
That the industry hasn't figured out how to wield responsibly. Social media has made gaming more popular and accessible than ever before. You have the ability to go out and find your audience and make the exact game that those players want to play. But because of the nature of social media, if your worldviews and your personality is not congruent with that audience, you will sink your game. It's as simple as that. Sure, there's probably going to be some people that are out there that are saying, well, you need to represent both sides of this issue. Can't developers be human? No, they can't. When it comes to these interactions between players and developers,
well, again, they can, but it's honestly far more easy and far more better for everyone if they just don't.
The responsibility, the accountability ultimately falls with the developers. Players, by nature, are a diverse group, passionate, opinionated. They can be toxically positive or toxically negative. But the critical...
Yeah, it's like that mouthwash situation. Like, a couple of days ago, it was, oh, mouthwash, the devs are based because they are like, okay, if you want to go into our characters, I mean, do it. We have nothing against you. And then something happened, and now it's, I haven't looked into it, but now it's pretty much, oh, they came out as idiots. Well, you had a great game there. It's too bad it's not going to sell as good now.
Critical distinction here is that they do not represent a company. Anything beyond actions that would cross legal or ethical boundaries, they do not have the same level of accountability. Developers, on the other hand, they're professionals. Well, they're supposed to be professionals, working in a forward-facing role. I realize that they probably haven't come to terms with that necessarily just yet, but because of the nature of social media, whether you're on the clock or off the clock, you are a representative of your company. The things that you say...
By the way, that was also true before social media. People did get fired, you just didn't hear about it. If they misrepresented the company in a very, very bad way in some event or something like that, that did happen. You just didn't hear about it.
The things that you do will fall back on that game, on that product, on that team that you're working with. That's just how this works. It's the reality of the situation. It's the reality of working in a public-facing role. No, they have to realize that they have to maintain some level of professionalism. But the problem is that's, well, a little bit too much for some. Now, there are some recent situations that I've seen and some older ones that I want to touch on to bring greater context to this issue and show just how much of an impact developers' words can have on the success of the games that they've worked on. We've all seen how easily the scales can tip. Helldivers 2 is probably the best example of this. When that game was riding high, the developers were constantly engaging with their audience. That audience continued to grow. But after a few choice interactions and Sony's backstabbing, all of that goodwill was lost in the blink of an eye. The players that were on the side of the developers, even when the game had these persistent issues with performance, matchmaking, connectivity, and more, but all of that went away because it seemed like the game's success had gone to the heads of both the developers and the community managers. Now, this all started off with the game's initial balance patch, which essentially took players' favorite weapons.
That's a fairly nondescript description of what happened, I kind of feel like. It's a lot less nuanced than that. Okay, here's pretty much the story of Helldivers. Helldivers comes out, woo-wah, bang, bang, everyone loves it. I don't remember the balance patches start before Sony did the stupid thing or after, but in any case, let's cover the Sony thing first. Sony then wanted everyone to link their accounts, and, well, no one liked that, and the developers were like, come on, link the accounts, guys, don't be fucking losers, it's just an account, it's 10 seconds. And that was the moment when I personally understood. Wait a minute, these devs don't really care too much, and I can't trust them. And after that, they started very fast to backpedal about all their takes on Sony needs to link accounts, and they're like, no, we're gonna fight Sony suddenly. So that was the moment I personally kind of lost the trust in the developers because hey, they're gonna do as they are told. Okay, they don't really have too much of a backbone in anything they do. Then that whole shabazzle ended, and then Helldivers had the problem of the fact that everything got nerfed a lot in every patch. Everyone's favorite weapons always got nerfed, and it kind of was bad. But now Helldivers is back. I haven't checked the player numbers recently, but the last time I was checking, graph was going up. Unless something has changed right now that I do not know of.
Away from them made the game feel worse to play and ultimately started its mass exodus. Throwing gasoline on an already raging fire, the developer behind the balance patch took to Reddit to push back against players, defending the changes, and later pretentiously admitting that they were intentionally aggravating the audience for their own entertainment. Funny enough, all of the balance...
Oh, yeah. I mean, one thing is to defend the balance changes if you have a vision and whatnot, and people don't like it. That is one thing, and mistakes can happen. But if you're gonna be like, oh, I actually just wanted to piss off the chuds, yeah, that's when you're gonna experience hardcore a loss, because that is not a good thing to say, and it just makes you look like an angry child, and that's pretty much the end of the story. Not good.
Admitting that they were intentionally aggravating the audience for their own entertainment. Funny enough, all of the balance changes that this developer was defending have been removed from the game, and their Reddit account has been deleted.
Hello?
Matters only got worse when Discord mods went rogue over players complaining about furry art, banning people for using clown and throw-up emojis.
Oh, yeah! I mean, this happens to a lot of Discords and places. But we're actually going to talk about this in D&D. D&D's current Discord is literally taken over by gay, furry PDFs and things of that nature. And they are just constantly spouting how D&D inclusiveness and needs more of their kind of mental illnesses. Okay? That's pretty much all that they are doing. The Discord is literally taken over by some brain damaged activists, and that can easily happen. Okay, because if the role of power is given to not the right person, hey, a lot of things can happen.
And later community managers minimizing players' feedback regarding the Sony account linking issue. When a player had said this will kill Helldivers 2 on Steam, backpedal or lose your player base, a community manager responded, I thought you were refunding and leaving. This whole we know better than you attitude proliferated throughout the entire game's community team, ultimately resulting in more players leaving and these community managers losing their jobs. Just last year, we had Bethesda's Emil Pagliarulo take to Twitter during the backlash,
my favorite dude,
over Starfield, where almost unanimously players felt completely underwhelmed by the game's lack of freedom and muted narrative, saying, funny how disconnected some players are from the reality of game development, and yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can...
God damn. Dude, this guy is the first person ever, and he's making Elder Scrolls 6. Are you happy? You should be, because it's already dead. He's literally going to be the story narrative lead for Elder Scrolls 6. Well, I shouldn't say will be. He already is. He already is. So Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be absolute Bethesda tier bust. But this guy, man, this guy is just special. Dude, funny how disconnected some players are from the reality of game development. You need to be so stupid to say something like this. I don't know what's this new illness the developers are constantly getting, but it can be described as this. Game developers think that the player base, the customer base, needs to align themselves with their woes, which is complete BS. I don't care if your engine can't do this. I don't care if the servers don't allow this. I don't care if the technology is not there. I'm a consumer, not a developer. It's not my job to make the game better. It's not my job to give you constructive criticism. Okay? If I want to give you constructive criticism, that's fine. But it's not my job to do so. It's not my job to hold my breath because you're having a tough week. I'm a consumer. You're the developer. Do your job. I don't care about you as a person, Emil. You're literally trash in my eyes.
Guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't work in the factory, so what the hell do I know, really? Not a lot. Continuing on with their post to try to talk about how hard it is to make video games and how players need to be empathetic to the process, even though they are the ones asking for our money, he concluded with, so yes, love games, buy them, play them, and complain about them to your heart's content. It's the sort of nature of the developer-player transactional relationship, but just know that the games that you are playing in some ways are a freaking miracle in and of itself. Normal people have come together to work for years for one goal, to bring you fun and happiness. So it helps,
except not really,
to remember that, and them. Still to this day, I am stunned by the lack of self-awareness when you recognize the transactional relationship, tell us to buy things even though we're going to complain about it, and then tell us to remember the people that made it for us because they wanted us to have fun and be happy when those very games that we're complaining about failed to do those two things. I'll recognize your hard work. I'll applaud it. Hell, I'll tell other people to buy it if it's actually worth my money. Just this last year, we saw one of the developers of Concord completely tone deaf to how the game was performing, how poorly it was doing in the eyes of players.
Every dev of Concord was a tone-deaf idiot.
How poorly it was received by the intended audience, if there even was one in the first place, going on Twitter to write, "Why would I care about a bunch of talentless freaks hating on it?" When it seems that they really should have actually cared about what those talentless freaks wanted, otherwise their game wouldn't have failed and their studio would still exist. News just broke recently with the art director of Avowed who took to Twitter to air their grievances pre-election, saying that
RIP Avowed, by the way. I had high hopes, but, it's already pretty certain it's gonna be shit.
Trump voters need to feel the sting of shame for the rest of their putrid lives, in response to someone else that was saying that they need to crush their spirits into...
God, I love when they call Trump a dictator. I just love that so much.
...to blood and earth. After Avowed found itself in this internet moment over the game's use of pronouns and gender expression, they retreated to Blue Sky to mock Elon Musk, saying, "I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game, and I can't believe it actually happened." I'm going to break the fourth wall here for a little bit, but I didn't even vote. I'll be honest,
That's by the way a lie. It just happened and that person now is coping that everyone is perceiving what he did so poorly.
Completely forgot about it. I don't really care about people's political leanings. Two things strike me about this, though. One being the complete narcissism that's on display when saying, "my game." This isn't your game. This is your studio's game. It's not your political vehicle to crash and burn for your own personal...
Yeah, this is also a problem. I mention this constantly. I talk about it often. Your workplace is not your family. It's just a thing that pays you money. Never go out of your way to ruin yourself for them. At the end of the day, if someone tells you, hey, pick up that box, and it's like super heavy and that's probably gonna fuck up your back, don't do it. Tell them to fuck themselves. They can't they can't let you go, and if they do, that's a lawsuit right there just waiting to happen. Okay? Put boundaries on things. Okay? And don't be like, "Oh, they're gonna fire me, I'm not gonna have money." Well, chances are if they can fire you that easily, you can get a job equivalent to that also easily. So don't worry about it, okay? Never bust yourself open for these people. Never cut yourself for them. Because at the end of the day, they're going to say just thank you, and when you leave because your health is diminished, they're not going to care. They're just going to say bye-bye, and that's pretty much it.
...agenda. Secondly, by acting this way and saying what you have, given the results of the election, that means that you wanted to piss off more than half of the country that you're operating in. I want to hear your justification to Xbox's marketing department when you say, "I don't want to sell my game to most people." Finally, the one that inspired this video is Martin Halden, the co-founder, composer, and audio lead for Wrong Organ and their game Mouthwashing. Martin colorfully expressed his dismay when Asmongold discovered his game and expressed interest in playing it.
Now, 1, not liking Asmongold, based. 2, still an idiot though.
While Martin painted Asmongold in pretty broad strokes, calling him anti-woke, anti-gay, and more, I've had similar things said about myself, but
Asmongold's probably too much of a pussy to ever say something anti-gay.
these are mostly just people that take other people's word as Bible and have reactionary responses to clips and thumbnails. Meanwhile, they couldn't be any further from the truth because none of that is actually representative of the concerns or the overall messages in the content. Much to the dismay of Martin, but luckily for Wrong Organ, Asmon took the high road. He played the game, enjoyed it in front of an audience of almost 40,000 people with a VOD uploaded onto a YouTube channel that receives tens of millions, if not more, views per month, and exposing the game to that many more potential customers. All of these examples show a staggering disconnect from reality.
Yeah, this game is gonna give exposure based on how many people actually watch the video, not how many people watch the channel in general. There's a huge difference.
Developers failing to grasp the impact their actions
though.
have on how their games are perceived. Whether it's intentionally antagonizing players, dismissing legitimate criticism, or using their position to push their own personal agenda, the consequences are all the same. They are alienating their audience and driving potential customers away. This isn't about silencing developers or denying them personal expression. It's about recognizing that working in a public-facing industry comes with responsibilities. If your audience feels dismissed or insulted, they're not going to stick around out of loyalty. They are going to move on to a developer that respects them, values their input, or acts responsibly.
Yep, never have loyalty to anything. It doesn't make sense. It only is going to end up hurting you, okay? There's very, very few things that you should have loyalty. Even that's arguable, actually. Like, for example, your family and loved ones. You should have loyalty towards them, but even that, honestly, has limits.
Games do not...
And for a company, for a game, fuck that. No loyalty at all.
Not sell themselves.
They're not gonna give you a discount because you like their game.
They rely on word of mouth, on trust, and on the connection between the creators and the players. Developers who fail to understand this are gambling with the livelihoods of their teams and the future of their studios. At the end of the day, a player might forgive a performance bug, a balancing issue, or even a poorly written narrative, but what they won't forgive is being treated as if their opinions, money, and loyalty don't matter. It's narcissism. That's it. It's as simple as that. You saw it in some of the posts that I showed. My game, my game. It's not your game. It's your team's game. It's your studio's game. It's your publisher's game. And everything that you say and do puts them all at risk. It's like none of these people have ever worked.
Most people admittedly talk about this if they have worked in a company or a project or something for an extended period of time. But yeah, that's still not exact. That's well, not exactly true. It's blatantly not true.
A retail job before, or recognize or realize that they work in the retail industry. You might be a creator, but you're creating a retail product. If you insult your audience, they're not going to buy it. It's as simple as that. And there's something else that I think a lot of people fail.
Tell that to people who are into BDSM, though.
To recognize, especially the people that are at some of these game studios. And that's that oftentimes it's not the people that are affected. It's the people on the sidelines that are the ones that don't end up buying these games. I was actually excited for Avowed. I saw it. I was relatively high on it. I talked to a couple of my friends about it that already got the chance to play it hands-on. I watched a couple previews online. Everybody had a lot of really good things to say about it. I was like, oh, cool. Looks good. Then I saw what the art director said online.
Well, Avowed's biggest problem is not what the stupid art director said online. It's how the, story ends out and a lot of the things that are potentially in there. Because, we already talked about this, right? That is the art director. Which means everyone in the company under the art director thinks exactly like him, otherwise they don't probably have the job, or they're lying and still succumbing to his vision about things. So, when an art director has this kind of proclivities, that's going to naturally impact the way that he does things. It always does. There's no such thing as a situation where it doesn't. And that's obviously bad. So, that kind of explains all the ugly new male characters, women without breasts, and all the things that we saw in Avowed currently. It explains a lot of things, and if that's one head lead of something like that, you can assume that everyone else is probably like that also. So I think the story is going to be in some way woke, which is sad. And I think, well, again, never pre-order. If I, if this game turns out to be good, it's gonna be kind of shocking. So don't buy it day one. Don't pre-order it. Don't do anything. Also, it's a double A development game for 90 fucking bucks. Jesus Christ, yar hot on the high seas. I would honestly say.
Fine. Not only with their hiring practices at one point, but also with some of the things they've said recently, and was like, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to have anything to do with a company that's like that. It makes me kind of feel bad for purchasing some of their older games. If that's the way that you're going to act, if that's how messy you are on social media, that's likely how messy you are in your games. And yeah, I'm just going to avoid that entirely. And there's probably a lot of people that think that way. I would guarantee anybody watching this video right now saw a company make or take an action or do something or say something or whatever it is and said, yeah, you know what, I'm just not going to buy from them anymore.
Makes sense.
It happens all the time.
Yep.
You represent your brand at all times. Your actions completely.
Okay, now I feel we're kind of slowly going. So I guess that's pretty much it. Anyway, that was a legendary drops 10 out of 10. Bye.